I think we're ready.
All right, follow me. So, welcome to the Fairfield County Infirmary. My name is Patience. I'm one of the tour guides here. Building was built in 1828, and it was the county poor farm from 1828 until 1985. After that, it became the county health department from 86 until 2013, and then it sat abandoned until 2018 when Habitat for Humanity acquired the property. Now, when they had the property, they wanted to renovate it, and they wanted to be able to make it kind of like a house between one of their home, like Habitat built houses and like homelessness. But for them to raise that type of money, they did a haunted house. Their haunted house didn't quite work out the way they had expected it, and they didn't raise the money that they had expected to raise for it. So then they ended up losing the property in 2020 back to the land bank. And then that's when Adam Kimmel was able to acquire the property. Everything that you've seen, if you've seen anything involving Adam and the property and stuff, it is true. He did purchase the property for $1. But that was because of all of the legality and back taxes and everything that had happened with Habitat, and that's the reason why he was able to purchase it for that. So we've had the building now for 4 years, and paranormal encounters have gone from hearing voices, hearing footsteps, seeing shadow figures, people being touched. Equipment, any type of equipment has gone off in this building, and also you've gotten really good EVPs. Where we're at right now is the first floor, or the basement as everybody calls it. During the time of the poor farm, this more would have been administration type areas. There's a morgue down here, a doctor's office, a funeral parlor. They would have had a kitchen down here at one point in time when it wasn't out in a separate building. There's also a maintenance corridor that's right here, and then they also would have had a church in here at one point in time when the church building was no longer standing. The property was 140 acres originally. It now sits at about 6.68 acres. And all kinds of encounters. We'll start in the morgue, and we'll talk about the bodies in the cemetery and everything in the morgue.
All right. Step right here.
So this is the morgue. Essentially, the bodies would have been cleaned inside of these troughs that I'm sitting on. They also, at one point in time, would have cleaned their food inside of these troughs. Autopsies would have been done back in the bathroom back here. And then the coolers that are behind you guys, they would have used to not only house bodies during the winter months when they couldn't bury out in the cemetery, but they would also house their food in there as well. Yeah. This one is accessible for you guys to be able to go into, so that way you guys can have chances to explore it. Down here, paranormal wise, people have heard footsteps out in the hallway from being in here. People have had really good Estes sessions in here. Usually you can get really good EVP sessions as well, but if the spring is running that runs through the bottom of this building, sometimes you can't get good EVPs because of that. You have to listen. Yep. It's not running as bad as it did earlier this week, but it's running. People have also heard when their entire team is down here, movement upstairs. Up above us is where base camp is at, so there shouldn't be anybody up there. And it's that third room that we have dark right now. It's that third room up there. So if you guys don't have equipment in there and somebody's moving around up there and y'all are down here, it's probably one of them letting people know that they're here. Trying to think of some other stuff we've had. There are estimated 1,200 bodies buried out in the cemetery, and that's just the registered cemetery. 2018, Gorsuch Realty actually did ground penetrating radar, and they found another 1,600 anomalies outside of the registered cemetery. So they believe that those are also the bodies of residents that live here. What they were paying off of was the tops of their heads, because at this location, they actually buried people standing straight up instead of in mass graves like most county poor farms did. 1926, there was a formaldehyde poisoning that happened not only inside of the building, but also in the city of Lancaster, due to the formaldehyde going down into the spring, and the spring taking it down to the creek. The creek that's behind the university actually was the town's water source during that time. So that is how the formaldehyde poisoning happened inside the town. Now, where the university is across the street, that actually was the farmland for the property at one point in time. And that is where if you live inside of this building, you work on that farm, and you'll be able to help not only feed yourself inside of the building, but they also will sell off portions of their stock to the town as well. That is it for here. Any questions so far? For the doctor, so that the doctor could have a chance to have the patients come in from not just in the building, but also from the county too. In 1885, there's actually a famous body snatching case that happened here inside of this building. Dr. Gullaby, who was a doctor for the School of Medicine, came down here because state legislation had passed stating anybody who died inside of a county poor farm could be used as legal dissecting material. So he tried to come down here and take two bodies out of here. The first one was a man by the name of James Hanna, and the superintendent stopped him and said, you can't take him, his family hasn't been notified, give me 24 or 48 hours to notify his family. So Gullaby went back up to Columbus to the School of Medicine, came back down a couple days later. James Hanna's family was actually taking him from the property. So he took a man by the name of Henry Abel, jammed him into an Arbuckle coffee box, took him to the local train station, and when he started to stink, people told the cops. The cops took him and the body into custody, and the mayor at the time actually stated he did nothing wrong per state legislation, just let him go. Main thing that he did wrong was he didn't have the paperwork for that body. He didn't tell the superintendent he was taking that body. And the person's family hadn't been notified. The biggest thing was that they had to notify the families before they could be put into the School of Medicine for dissecting material. The main reason why they were being dissecting material, though, was because consumption, which we know now as tuberculosis, was running rampant through Ohio and other states, and they were trying to help find a cure. So that's the reason why they passed that law. In here, in particular, people have been touched. I had a friend who said he felt like he was kicked in the chest. I've seen an apparition in here, and multiple other people have seen an apparition of a woman, not just in here, but also in the hallway as well. Other than that, trigger objects like your music box and your REM pod that you have, great here.
Okay.
If they feel like playing with them, because they do have that thing where if they feel like playing, they will play. Because we've told them they don't have to play with people if they don't want to play with people. So
Yeah.
Trying to think anything else. We were actually in here Tuesday, and we were walking around, and that actually fell when none of us were anywhere near it. So stuff does move. Doors have been known to move throughout the entire building, not just down here. We're into the funeral parlor though. I've actually slept in this building, and probably the best food I've ever actually had.
You found it. Mandy seeing her first haunted dog.
He's like, oh,
Ew.
this is nice. Oh yeah, that's gonna be creepy.
Stairway's creepy.
So, this is our funeral parlor. Now, it could be used as a funeral parlor for the residents who lived in this building, but it also could be used for the people of the county. So if you didn't want to have your funeral in your homes back in those days prior to the funeral homes being built, you could actually rent this space out, have your funeral, but it was immediate family only, and once your funeral service was done, you couldn't just sit around like we do at viewings now. You literally had to leave, and they would literally pull the body right out of here, right out the front door. Now the front door is the original front door. The pianos that are in the building were put here when Habitat was here for the haunted house. That was part of their haunted house music and stuff. Now the pianos have been known to go off. I actually experienced it during a daytime tour that I did about 6 months to a year ago. I'd never experienced it, talked about it. I was like, cool. And it was me, a husband and wife. We were actually in the room across the way. And I just got done talking about them, and instantly, ding! And I'm like, I'm just sitting there like, I hope that they heard that and it wasn't just me. And he looks at me and he's like, you heard that, right? And I'm like, yes, I did. So he paused his video because he was actually running a video. He paused his video and we went back and we listened and we actually heard it on his video too. And it was funny because his wife had been hearing stuff the entire tour, but he hadn't heard anything. So when he actually heard it, I was like, yep, something actually happened. Shadow figures are very prevalent in this area, specifically seeing them come through the door right here. I've actually seen one kind of peek in the door and look at us like, what are you doing? And then peek right back out. A woman has actually seen another woman standing right here by this window. She was outside taking footage before I had even gotten here. And there was nobody else in the building. Nobody else had a set of keys to get in. And she said she saw the woman standing right here. And when we came down here on the tour, she's like, yes, it's this window right here. So that's been seen. We've had multiple people outside the building say that they've seen people standing in the windows. My uncle, when he mows the yard, he feels like somebody's watching him out of the windows because he's the one who mows the yard for the property. So things like that happen not just in here, but out there as well. We're going to head upstairs to the second floor, though. Dolls.
Yeah.
There's always one in the group that goes, So these 3 rooms originally would have been used as day rooms for the women. We have this one set up as our little girls' playroom. Sorry, dolls. The one right above us that we'll go see here shortly set up as our little boys' playroom. It's got a fort, cars, chess, all types of stuff up there. Some of the paranormal occurrences that happen on this side of the second floor, people hearing footsteps. We've had a group say that they heard what sounded like little kids running down the hallway. We've also had a cat ball, specifically inside of the closet, inside of 222 here, that literally moved 180 degrees on camera. It was one of my friend's Facebook Lives. Trying to think of some more paranormal stuff. There's so much that's happened in this building over the last 4 years, but it's insane. History-wise, we don't know exactly which day room it happened in. Like I said, there's these 3 day rooms and then the 3 upstairs that are identical. Jane Householder, she was one of our residents who lived here. She had been sick. She wanted to get out of her room, kind of just to get out of her room and have some chance to walk away and see how she's feeling. Nurses told her, no, you need to stay in your room. We don't want you to infect anybody. Pretty much said, screw you, and she went to the day room anyway. She was in there, she messed with the fire, it accidentally picked back on her dress, and in the 1920s, dresses were very flammable, and so it engulfed her completely in the flames. By the time they put her out because they heard her screaming, she was found on the floor. Her entire body was charred. She no longer had any remnants of her dress. And it actually took her 9 hours before she died here inside the building. Yeah. Now, they say she ran into an adjacent room. The only rooms that are adjacent rooms are these two and the two above. If you want to consider like actual adjacent rooms in terms that we consider adjacent rooms. Now in the 1920s, I don't know if maybe they thought this was adjacent to or what, but actual adjacent rooms where there's doorways in between the two rooms are these two rooms here and the two rooms upstairs. So it kind of narrows down like which possibility it could have been. I always have an inkling of where it was, but I wait to see what teams get because I like to watch people's videos to see what they get. But her fire did happen here. It was a separate fire from another fire that happened also in the 1920s, but we'll talk about that when we actually get up to the 4th floor. But everybody always assumes her fire was that one. No, it was in a day room. We just don't know which day room specifically. We'll head down towards the main staircase. Questions so far? No. Cool. To my left would have been the side where the women would have stayed. To my right would have been the side where men would have stayed. Now, when the building was originally built in 1828, it started out at 1,200 square feet, which would have been the men's side of the building. And then in 1848 and 1868, they actually added on to what you guys see today. Now, it's a little under 41,000 square feet for this entire building. So imagine going from 1,200 square feet to that in a matter of, what, 40 years? Yeah. It's crazy. The second floor doesn't have nearly as much activity as the 3rd and 4th floor do, but the second floor men's side has had a recent uptick in activity. That door that's open on the right hand side, if you guys want to look down the men's side, it has been known to open. It opened on one of our crew members when he was in here doing an investigation with his paranormal team. He was actually sitting on the stairwell that's right there, and he literally felt a thump go up against the door, and then when he moved, it started to open. I've heard door movements just as recent as 3 weeks ago with the door that's on the left-hand side that goes between the 2nd floor and the 4th floor. And we've also seen shadow figures prevalently happening on the 2nd floor down here. Other than that, like I said, it hasn't really been very active, but recently it's starting to have a little bit of an uptick. We're going to go upstairs to the 3rd floor, though. The painters that are on the floor, we started spray painting on Tuesday so that we can start painting the walls in the next couple of weeks.
Are you planning on turning it into something else?
Nope.
Just wanting to paint the walls?
Yep.
Oh.
Yep, nope. No plans to do anything different. The biggest thing that we're going to do that might be a little different is the roof. I don't know if we're going to put shingles on it or if we're going to do like Adam kind of ones and put metal on it. But the roof is being worked on. We're going to start on the men's side because that's the worst of it because it's the oldest of it, and work our way across. Our convention that we're doing June, what's the date? 15th, will actually help us raise money for the roof. Usually we, like the kids' room that's down this way that I'll walk you guys to here in a minute, we're going to paint it. We're going to paint, I think, some of the rooms down here on the women's side, but I know the hallways, we're going to completely do the hallways. We kind of do that every couple years just to give her a nice little fresh face. She's gorgeous. So this floor and the 4th floor are the ones that are known the most for the shadow figures. The 4th floor in particular is known for a 7-foot tall shadow figure that people have seen in the building. I personally have seen most of my shadow play either down here or when I'm upstairs looking towards where the old orphanage used to be, because from 1848 to 1868, they actually housed an orphanage here for the kids up on the 4th floor. And I'll show you guys where that's at here shortly. But that's where I see a lot of my shadow figure play is up there. Down here, the men's side has a unique feel to it at night. So when you guys are up here and it's completely dark, you'll understand what I'm saying about that. But during the day, it's not too bad. We were up here for 4 hours on Tuesday scraping paint, and not one peep really came out of them. And usually when we're doing stuff, we hear stuff off in the distance all the time, but not one peep. Men and women were separated. That was part of the rules. They actually had 10 rules they had to follow. They didn't follow those 10 rules. They put them in the jail cells, and each side up here would have had a jail cell. If you still didn't follow the rules after being in the jail cell for up to 24 hours, or you were violent, they would chain you up upstairs in what they call the dungeon, which is the weirdest aspect because when you think of dungeon, you think basement. No, they actually put them up there. In the summertime, it's the hottest spot, and in the wintertime, it can be one of the coldest spots. So I can see why they might have actually done it that way. A few of the rules were no intoxicating liquors of any kind, could not leave the institution without permission, no profane language, you were required to be cleanly. Men and women were not allowed to talk to each other. Men and women were not allowed on each other's sides. Those are kind of the 6 rules that they really focused on. The 7th one was if you could work, you were required to work, whether you're taking care of someone here inside the building or you're helping take care of the farm outside. I always forget the 2 in the middle, and then the 10th one states anyone who did not follow the above stated rules are subjected to the jail cells or to the dungeon. Let's go see the little boys' room first, and then I'll take you guys down to the women's jail cell, because the men's one is currently off limits.
I've been staring at the telephone and make sure.
So this is our little boys' playroom. Adam and his son Atticus actually decided to buy this fort for them and actually built it for them last June. So this is something that's relatively new. A lot of our investigators have had stuff happening when they have been playing in here, specifically in this fort. I actually sat in this fort for about, well, it was like 2 or 3 hours for our kids' trick-or-treat that we had. And you could actually tell the difference when the energy would change in the room. When the kids would come to get the candy and stuff, you'd see their excitement and stuff, but when they would leave, you would feel the excitement in the room. And I don't know if it was like our kids that we have here, because we do have children's spirits, or if it was just the retained energy to the building from the kids being excited for trick-or-treating. When I was up here though, I did hear some stuff move, but I didn't physically see it. This room though was the health department administrator's office when the health department was in here. And she actually has told us claims of having stuff move on the mantelpiece. She would lock her room, she would leave for the night, she'd come back, and there'd be stuff moved, but nobody had a key to get into her room. I have seen a car during another investigation. There was a car that was sitting right here. I was standing about right here. We were talking, kind of trying to get them to play with us. And the car literally come off of that and hit the little metal piece that's right here, and then kind of like drumped to where it was settling. But thank you. Music is a big thing inside of this building, not just for the kids' spirits, since I'm talking about it in the kids' room, but the entire building. In the 1920s, they actually did big bands and ice cream socials and Christmases for the kids inside of the building and outside of the building. So if you guys aren't getting any luck from them, try some music. Doesn't matter what music, you can try their time period. But they listen to our music too, and sometimes they literally start acting up when they're listening to our music too. Adam's been in here countless times listening to Eminem when he's working. and we'll have stuff happen when he's doing that. So any music is good. I think they're just like how I am. They like a good beat. They like any type of noise that's gonna happen. So if you can't get any luck of them trying to like do whatever you guys are gonna do tonight, just try some music. They might enjoy that. We'll head down to the jail cell though.
Come on.
I feel like I just felt something.
Now, have any of you watched the Destination Fear episode of this building?
Yes.
This is that door that scared the shit out of Alex.
Yeah.
It's this one.
Okay. Good to know.
Now,
Sorry.
I personally have not heard of anybody capturing it moving since.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean that it hasn't happened. Heck, it could have happened when none of us were in here.
He caught it opening on camera.
Twice.
By itself.
Not just once, but twice. The still camera caught it the first time, and he heard the noise of it, but he didn't know what it was. So he came down here, he checked, saw that it was open, radioed down to them. Tanner freaked out because Tanner was the last one up here and he had shut it. And then Alex is like, okay, I'm going to shut it again, go somewhere else and see what happens. So he shuts it again, he goes upstairs, sits upstairs for a little bit, comes back down here, freaks himself out because he thought that he didn't close it, but he did close it. And then, as he's halfway down the hall, it starts to open and he watches it open with his eyes, like physically watches it. Now, along with this room, we don't know how many women would be kept in here at a time. We do know that it was for up to 24 hours. After that 24-hour period, if they ended up being good, they'd send them back to their room. But like I said, if they didn't want to listen or they got violent after that 24-hour period, they'd take them upstairs to the dungeon. Shadow figures have been caught inside of this room on camera. People have had water bottles get knocked off. Sam Colby was some of those people, if you watch their YouTube channel. I was getting ready to come in this room. We had some friends in here. I was getting ready to come in this room and shut the door when I actually had a twist mag flashlight get thrown off the dumbbell waiter that's across the way over here. Other than that, yes, this is the table of offering. We asked them one time what they wanted and they said money, and ever since we've kind of grown an offering collection of whatever people have in their pockets or on them at that time. Hence the reason why you see tampons and pads and vouchers from casinos. Like, pretty much everybody's kind of just giving offerings to the building. I did ask them one time too. I'm like, what do you want? Like, what's a new item that you want? And they're like, clothes. And I'm like, what do you want the clothes for? They're like, dolls. I'm like, oh, so you want your dollies to have new clothes is what you're telling me. Other than that, the cars that you guys are hearing will start to slow down about 10 o'clock. You'll still have like major semis and some cars coming through here because this is a major highway from 70 to Lancaster. But a lot of it dies down about 10 o'clock, so there shouldn't be as much noise contamination from the cars. Hoping one day it happens.
She closed it.
The thing that's some of our favorite things to do as crew members here is to specifically sit here on the third floor and just listen. No equipment, no nothing, just use our ears and listen. Because we've had some astonishing noises besides the taps that we'll hear next to us. We've heard bangs down the hall, we've heard walking. There's been a few times though we'll put cat balls out in doorways and we'll just sit and we'll listen and we'll tell them, if you feel like messing with the cat ball, go ahead. And we'll have them occasionally go off in different rooms every time we've done that. So People have brought balloons to see if the balloons will move in doorways when people are just sitting still. I have a set of friends who bring balloons, and in the balloons there's lights, so that way they can see if it moves.
That's a good idea.
Yeah, because the lights move with it. We had a group of people who were here recently, and they saw the balloon move, and I was like, "You just walked by it, dummy." That's why it moved. You'll notice two-way mirrors in some of the rooms. Those are from when the health department was here. This floor was specifically children's services. So that's how they were able to do their observations with the families and the kids and all of that. So that's why there's two-way mirrors in some of the rooms.
That's creepy.
So this is the fourth floor, or the attic, as a lot of people call it. This long hallway was actually used for people who were transient and passing through town to be able to stay. But if they did stay, they had to work for their stay. So they'd come in, stay the night, and then the next day they'd work all day. Then they'd be tired, they'd get extra rations, need to sleep again, they'd stay again. Next day, have to do whatever needs to be done. Kind of like a
racing right now.
playground. I believe some of them probably ended up just permanently staying here. Because they had a roof over their heads, so why move on? Paranormal wise, because of the skylights, especially if you have a really good night of a moon, people see a lot of shadow figures up here. We've heard a lot of walking down on that end, and I've actually been ran up on when I was in that lockbox. I was the only person in the building. I was doing something maintenance-wise, and they actually ran up on me from behind, and I had to whip around and tell them to leave me alone, and it stopped. So I did what I needed to do, and I actually ran out of the building after that, because that was my first big encounter that I had inside of the building. So I was like, yep, nope, you're not doing this to me today. Up above me is where the superintendent and the matron of the house would actually sit, and they would make sure that everybody was doing their jobs outside. You are welcome to go up there, but if you do go up there, please go 1 or 2 people at a time, because there is stuff up there for us to start doing roof work, and we don't want you guys to get hurt. The dungeon is over here. Now, essentially, they would chain you up to the walls, and they would leave you up here for an indefinite amount of time. That is what all paperwork has stated that we have found is indefinitely. So we don't know if anybody actually did get off the walls from the dungeon. We do know of at least one confirmed death that happened from someone that was up here. They actually died from being frozen to death. Now the hooks are the original, and you can actually see where all the old hooks used to be as well. And if you actually go around over here, you can see some still perfectly preserved hooks. I haven't actually sat up here when it rains. I need to, because I want to see what it's like when it's not the sky.
Yeah, I think that is awesome.
So this area was used as the orphanage, like I stated, from 1848 to 1868. After that, they actually built the county children's home, which, by the way, is still standing today. Those of you who are locals to Fairfield County, Hocking County area, it's actually the community action building that's over there across from where the old Big Bear used to be on East Main Street. That's the old county children's home. But activity-wise that happens in here, people have gotten some really good EVP sessions in here, really good Estes sessions. People have also seen shadow figures down here, hearing the beds move. People have heard the beds up here move a couple different times. I like it down here because it seems a lot more calm than the other half of the fourth floor when you're up here at night, because that half kind of like can get a little hairy, and this half is like, oh, sweet calm. But after it was no longer used as the orphanage area, this was actually used to hold people who had physical and violent tendencies due to their mental health issues. They would hold them out of sight, out of mind when county officials would come into town. So it didn't matter if you were men or women, they actually held you up here at the same time. kind of breaking their own rules in an aspect. But we have found things where women will be in here for over a year or more. Okay. Thanks. They'll be in here for over a year or more, and they will actually end up pregnant, and they don't know how they ended up pregnant. And kind of thinking, if you house men and women in here when county officials would come into town, if county officials were in the building for, say, 5-6 hours, you had them up here for 5-6 hours before you let them go to their room, who knows what happens, because they're not going to tell you they were raped up here. Like, they're not going to say something happened to them up here. Like, they're going to keep it to themselves. So we don't know if that actually happened. Like, we don't know if people were actually raped up here, or if it was staff that did it, or if it was other residents and they just kind of found hiding places to do it. We don't know. We don't have that kind of paperwork. But we do know women would end up pregnant here. So kind of put 2 and 2 together in an aspect. The other fire that I mentioned downstairs actually happened up here, but it burned for an hour and a half before anybody knew it was burning, because no one was up here at that time. It actually happened in that back corner over there, and you can still, people say you can still see remnants of the charring. The big problem is this is the side of the building where the roof is the worst, so it could also be water damage that you're looking at, not burn patterns. Now, there is a window pane that is broken in that window, so if you guys want to put that foam up to kind of deter any noise when you're in here, you're welcome to do that too. It just doesn't stay up anymore, even though we rigged it to try and stay up. It doesn't. When a big gust of wind comes through, and it just knocks it right down. But you guys are welcome to do that. That's all of the inside of the building. I can take you guys outside now and show you where the cemetery is, because you have access to the cemetery as well. Yes, please.
Okay.
And whoever decided to make noise, hi.
Thank you. After
Yep, so this goes between here and the second floor.
I could hear because I was really close. It was like,
This stairwell is the first stairwell that he's paint chipping, so yeah, we use it. We don't use that stairwell as often as the main stairwell. Well, some of us still do.
I kept staring.
Watch your head.
Yeah. Looking at this way because it just kept catching.
Right.
Where's the chicken? Where was the chicken coop? Was that the chicken coop?
Yes, that's the chicken. This is the chicken coop.
Oh, okay.
The main reason why they refer to it as the chicken coop is the chicken wire door.
Oh, okay.
So. But yes, that is the chicken coop.
Okay.
I actually have not shut that door to see what would happen.
Maybe we'll shut it. Gonna shut this.
Don't forget to watch your heads. See, there is the actual marked registered cemetery. It's those little pillars. This is the best way to say it. Now, like I said, there's estimated 1,200 people buried back there. If you want to see headstones, because there's only 5 headstones, you have to go to the very back corner where you see those tall trees back there. You have to go all the way back there and you'll actually see headstones. One of the headstones is in memory of our dead. So essentially, back in those days, their families had to pay for their headstones. If their family didn't pay for their headstone, they just got buried out here with what we believe an unmarked grave. But they could have put numbers with them, but they've eroded away over time, so it's hard for us to be able to find it unless we pay for them. This whole back half, though, is where they did the ground penetrating radar. They also did it between the house and the building, and that's where they found the 1,600 other anomalies that they believe to be bodies as well. The natural spring actually starts down underneath the ground, but you can see it right through here, and then it goes right back underneath again. clean it out when it gets a little bit warmer, so that way you can actually see it a little bit better. The building next to us, that was a meat shop. The building after that was a carpenter shop, and in 1941 that was actually caught on fire by Irvin Young. He did it because they wouldn't give him tobacco or a back brace.
No, wow.
Yep. And then the big white building at the end, that is the blacksmith shop. Yep. Like I said, this originally was 140 acres. There used to be multiple buildings with it. But now it's what we see today because they sold portions of it off starting in the 60s and 70s. Ohio University, Lancaster is on top of it. The old high school and new high school are on top of what is going to be, or what was old portion of the property. I actually saw a land use 1850s that had property budding up to the rising tide. So it was on both sides of the road all the way down to where the Humane Society is now.